KAIROS News. Volume N squared 368. Year 2023. Editorial. Missions need a rear guard. In Romans 10:13, the Apostle Paul shows that for someone to believe, it is necessary for someone to preach, and for someone to preach, it is necessary to be sent. Partnership with missionary agencies can help train and send missionaries to the front lines where white fields await. Unfortunately, most churches do not have this missionary vision, and the few candidates who appear rarely get the necessary support. Many churches feel they are not in a position to send missionaries, and this ends up harming missionary agencies that depend on volunteers to support the rear guard. We need more volunteers in churches that want to support these agencies. Missionary battles continue to be fought around the world, such as in Turkey, where it is now illegal to preach the gospel, and in Europe, which has become a continent that receives missionaries. It is important to invest in cross-cultural missions and have the courage to go to the front lines or provide support in prayer so that the missionary flame does not go out. You can make a commitment to God to support a missionary, whether in the field or in the rear guard, and even become an entrepreneur to support the missionary work. Pray, give, and go, do missions. Pastor Joao Araujo, President of KAIROS Mission. Cross-cultural training. Beyond you. Where Christ has not yet been announced. Room 1520. KAIROS is a Greek word that means opportune time. We believe that now, in this present time, we live in God's timing to manifest His kingdom through our preaching and actions in a world without Christ. It is our calling and privilege to dedicate our lives to the Lord and live in His opportune time, manifesting His kingdom on earth. KAIROS Mission has more than 34 years of experience pioneering intercultural projects in nations that are unreached or poorly evangelized. We are an international and interdenominational organization focused on nations with less than 5% of Christians or concerning socioeconomic conditions such as poverty, lack of infrastructure, post-disaster situations, or general human dramas. From Brazil to the world, KAIROS Mission has been providing training since 1989 and has trained over 900 candidates, including adults and children. We are currently active in 23 nations, where we focus on developing new leaders and planting churches. All of our candidates are sent by their churches, in partnership with the training provided by KAIROS Mission. The importance of training. Looking at the Brazilian missionary reality, we quickly recognize that one of our shortcomings is what we call missionary immediacy. Often, we do not assess that each candidate needs to go through prior training in the pre-field stage. The candidate must go through a character refinement process to mature in this new stage of their life. A mature missionary, with a well-developed character, will be willing to persevere with patience, love, compassion, and forgiveness in the face of the essential challenges of missionary ministry. KAIROS Intercultural Training. The structure of our intercultural training takes place over a period of 5 months of comprehensive and internal development. Our training program is developed in a multidisciplinary manner, integrating theory and practice, with a curriculum based on 6 thematic axes designed to help those called to build a solid foundation. 1. Missiology. 2. Anthropology. 3. Applied linguistics. 4. Spirituality. 5. Ministerial formation and development. 6. Socioeconomic development projects in missions. During the formation process, the candidate will receive ministerial and communication counseling and mentoring, and will have the opportunity to talk with experienced missionaries who have been working in the field for several years. The local church and KAIROS Mission. The church and KAIROS, in partnership, send the candidate for training after the proper approvals of their life, character, and vocation in the community where they are involved. KAIROS is responsible for cross-culturally training future missionaries and informing the church where there is a greater need for workers. In the country where they are operating, they should instruct newcomers in the field, serve existing churches, and train nationals to take on the work, both in the pioneer field and in the fields where the church is already established. Perform administrative work for logistical support, sending sustenance, medical assistance, pastoral visits, and field supervision, strategic planning, help with visa acquisition and fundraising for projects in the field and at the base, as well as participating in conferences, worship services, and missionary congresses to instruct the church to promote unity in the expansion of missionary work. How KAIROS operates. KAIROS operates in areas where there are less than 5% practicing evangelicals, among isolated peoples, and where the preaching of the gospel is prohibited. Currently, we work in 23 countries, with projects in education, health, church planting, teaching and training indigenous leaders, community development, sports, Bible translation, business, and refugee support. We work in partnership with evangelical churches in a joint effort to recruit, train, send, and supervise missionaries in the intercultural field. We offer a preparation period with biblical grounding and practical teaching for the development of their work, as well as their stay in the field. In addition, we provide support for obtaining visas and all logistical assistance in their areas of operation. Base and support. Our operational base for mission and purpose is established exclusively through partnerships with sending churches, providing services such as 1. Mobilizing the local church in an educational way, highlighting the missionary vocation of the church. 2. Mentoring ministerially called individuals. 3. Training new missionaries who meet the biblical standard for workers. 4. Sending workers to less evangelized groups and vulnerable situations. 5. Prioritizing church planting in places where there are no other churches, whenever possible. 6. Monitoring fieldwork and serving to enhance their ministries. 7. Providing logistical support to our workers, reducing ministerial costs as much as possible. 8. Supporting workers on visits, returns, or on vacation in Brazil. KAIROS operational base is responsible for various services related to the missionary cause. These services range from recruiting workers for the field to providing support for them upon their return. To carry out these tasks, in addition to regular operating costs such as internet, water, electricity, workers, and others, full-time paid workers are required to fulfill roles such as secretariat, workers, communication and mobilization, partner support, and presidency. This work is extremely workers TE for training, sending, and providing ongoing support for workers in the field. Mobilizers. KAIROS Mission has a team of mobilizers in several states of Brazil, whose goal is to support local churches by attending services, seminars, conferences, kids' mission events, and symposiums. The aim is to awaken Brazilian churches to the challenge of preaching the gospel to unreached peoples. If you're interested in becoming a mobilizer for KAIROS Mission, you can contact Pastor Manuel dos Santos at manuel@missakairos.org.br. The missionary and the field. Missionary work is a noble and challenging task that requires dedication, courage, and love for people who have not yet heard the message of salvation. It is an activity that demands a willingness to leave the comfort of home and family to bring the Word of God to distant and often hostile places. The challenges faced by missionaries in the field can vary significantly depending on the location, culture, and type of missionary work they are doing. However, here are some common challenges that missionaries may encounter. 1. Language barrier. Communication can be difficult if the missionary does not speak the local language or does not have sufficient fluency to communicate effectively. This can make evangelistic work, teaching, and counseling difficult. 2. Cultural differences. The local culture can be very different from the missionary's culture, and understanding and respecting these differences can be challenging. For example, differences in clothing, food, religious rituals, and social practices can be a barrier to missionary work. 3. Uncomfortable living conditions. Depending on the location where they are serving, missionaries may face difficult living conditions, such as a lack of clean water, a lack of electricity, discomfort in their accommodations, and other precarious conditions. 4. Safety. In some places, missionaries may be at risk due to political instability, violence, or local hostility. This can be particularly challenging for missionaries working in areas of conflict or where there is religious persecution. 5. Loneliness. Missionary work can be lonely, especially if the missionary is serving in a location where there are no other Christians with whom they can relate. 6. Spiritual resistance. Missionaries may face spiritual resistance from demonic forces or people who are opposed to their message. These are just some of the challenges that missionaries may face in the field. It is important to remember that the challenges may be different depending on the context and the type of missionary work they are doing. It is crucial for missionaries to receive proper training before going out into the field and to have adequate support to help them face these challenges. Sending missionaries is not an easy task, and the church needs to take special care of those who are sent in the name of Christ. The church should closely monitor the missionaries, offering emotional, financial, and spiritual support. May God give us the courage and perseverance to be faithful to this call. Pastor Fabio Rocha, Vice President of KAIROS Mission.